Okay, yeah, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's class. And this is actually our first cohort. And it's good to know that many people are willing to learn and also contribute to what they have actually known. This course is particularly important to a person like me, and that's the reason why I'm the one taking it. I've been able to explore some options, and I've found out that when it comes to data management and data science and data, whatever you may call it a name, it's important in this our own generation because everybody is looking for data. And I must tell you that the reason why everybody is looking for data is because we have found out that no matter how good an intervention may be, no matter how well planned a project may be, if it does not follow a precedent that has already been, let me say, proven, you are going to eventually fall into a lot of problems and you may not be able to actually have a success. And that's the reason why I started my own journey into data analysis. And yeah, and if you're doing data analysis, then you have to learn about biostatistics too, which is like fundamental in in the data analysis. Well, not to all data analysis, but at least for science, or let me say for life, or for biology related sciences. So that is why we are actually looking at this, but we will kind of streamline it to veterinary practice intentionally because we are vets, or we will be applying our own knowledge into in veterinary practice. And I want to actually make this disclaimer before we commence. The number one is that we are not trying to make a biostatistician per se in this course. When I say biostatistician, I mean person that all his life or all alive does things around biostatistics. So that's not what we are trying to build here, but is a foundation to that in case anybody would desire to be that. So that is the first disclaimer. Number two is that we are trying to kind of incite people into making use of what they have to get what they want. Because like I said, this is where we are going to. Then number three is that this biostatistics is what you're going to learn yourself is actually more than what you are going to be taught. It's just like mathematics. It's just like statistics. You are just going to be taught the preliminary, and it is by the time you practice, then you get used to it. Some other ideas come to your mind, and then you'll be able to make use of all of those ideas that have come to your mind to build something very beautiful and wonderful. So let's not waste much of the time. We are going to proceed now into the, well, this is me, and I'm not sure you will find this so much interesting when it's compared to what we have come here to do today. So that's just my profile. And these are what we're going to be considering. I've already sent this to our WhatsApp group so that we can also have an idea of what we're going to be doing. We just have 4 weeks to be able to cover much of what we have to learn. And we've made it in a way that's going to be concise. And you're going to have some assignment or tasks to do. Well, not today, because today happens to just be an introductory class, and we just do some introduction and then we get going. By next week, we're going to start in earnest, and that's the reason why I told one of you that I'm still trying to look for how to get a soft copy of SPSS and send to the email of every one of you so that you can download it and we can make use of that. So I will do that this coming week. So SPSS is not the only thing that, the only software that is used. We have what is called GraphPad too. GraphPad makes your analysis very beautiful. but we may not be able to do the graph pad in this session, but there will still be another training course where we are going to look at some of the wonderful things that SPSS and graph pads can do. But now, we want to have the knowledge about data and how to analyze data and general biostatistics. That is the aim of this. So these are the topics that we're going to be considering, and then we are going to run a project the fourth week. The fourth week, I'm going to give a little explanation of the project we are going to run, and then we are going to have that project become part of our assessment in the long run. So we will not waste time until the fourth week when we will have learned some basic things, and then we can use those basic things we have learned for the project, if that is okay by you. So that's being said, let's go to what we have to do even today. So number one is that we are looking at biostatistics, but statistics is very common. So we look at statistics, then we now define biostatistics. So statistics is a means by which a numerical or non-numerical set of information can be critically, number one, examined critically. Number two, sieved, because we don't want everything. We want only things that are relevant, sieved. Then after we have sieved it, we summarize. Nobody is interested in all the big things that you did at the background for you to, they just want something concise and can give them understanding of what you are going after. So summarize and then build into the body of knowledge. After you have summarized it, then the question is, what value does it have? Or what value does it add to the body of knowledge? So can you, after you have set out for your analysis, can you do some summary of your analysis that will now give us, okay, this is the value that you have built through all your analysis into the body of knowledge. Let me tell you, biostatistics is a lot and it takes a lot of time, as we are going to see immediately when we start. So be ready for that, because it's interesting if you are a lover of analysis anyway. So it can also be defined as the field of study that involves development of methods and tests that can be used to quantitatively define the variability inherent in set of information. That's number one, variability. Probability of certain outcomes. That's another good part of statistics. It can also give us probability of something happening or not happening. So it gives us probability of outcomes, and it can also tell us that probability, is there error in it or some form of uncertainty associated with those outcomes. That is another thing that biostatistics does. So which means if we are saying that a dog is going to be born with tan color, the question is, with data, we can eventually say there is likelihood that 20% of the dogs that will be born to GSD mother or dam in Nigeria will have tan color. And then we can also say to what level is that setting? Is it 95% confidence interval that we have, or we don't have up to that, or we look at our p-value and our p-value is not suggestive of 95%. So we can tell all of those things can be measured using statistics. Now, let's come to biostatistics. So biostatistics is therefore defined as a development and deployment of statistical methods to data relating to living organisms. So that is where bio, part of it, comes in. So we have understood what statistics is all about. Now the bio is that you are now applying or deploying or developing statistical methods to data that is only related to living organisms. So you are not applying it to social sciences, you are not applying it to mineral resources, you are not applying it to politics, you are not applying it to economics, you are applying it to living organisms. And that is what makes it biostatistics. So we go ahead with the study. Now, look at this. This is just going to give you like an overview of what biostatistics is all about, some questions that biostatistics try to answer. What kind and how much data do we need to collect? Now, I will say this, before you start any project that is going to involve data, ensure that your biostatistician is on ground and guide you to what and how you should collect data. And that's the reason why we are having this class, so that without the presence of biostatistician, you can also have an idea of what and how data should be collected in your field or your area of interest. So at least that will give you background knowledge that can be validated by somebody that his life is on biostatistics. Another thing is, how should we organize and summarize data? That's another question that biostatistics try to answer. How can we analyze the data and draw conclusions from it? Biostatistics also try to answer that question. How can we assess the strength? I just mentioned it. You want to know that, okay, this thing that we have said, is it strong? Is it representative? That is another question that biostatistics also try to answer the certainty or the uncertainty of what we have got from our data. So 3 things in summary of all of those questions: use biostatistics to design, use it to describe, and we use it to infer. Don't forget, we use it to design, we use it to describe, and we use it to infer. So inference is what most of the people are after, but more than the inference, you have to start from the design and then go ahead to describe before you can now talk about inference. So we use biostatistics for all of these purposes. Now, the question is, what are the sources of data? I'm going to take a while here, permit me, because this is the reason why I am passionate about biostatistics in the first place. And I have applied it and it is working for me. And I want to kind of pass the same idea to some other veterinarians so that they can also start doing similar things. Do you know that in Nigeria, we lack a lot of data around animal and animal health? A lot of data around animal and animal health. Dr. Emmanuel is here and he can testify to this thing that I'm trying to say. There was a time, because we once worked together in a place, there was a time we were trying to work with some British or UK-based organization, and they were asking us that, do we have data about animal health, about the diseases of importance in sheep, cattle, goats? And we couldn't provide any answer. It's not because there are no doctors that are working in animal health around that place, but most of them just work, get results, and vanish. None of them are sat down to ask themselves that, can't I bring something meaningful out of this thing? I call it data communication. After you have been able to win the battle against diseases, you've been able to diagnose, you've been able to ascertain that, okay, this is what is going on, or maybe you have not even ascertained, but you've been able to get a tentative diagnosis that this is likely going to be the cause of the problem for this animal, and then you have chosen a line of treatment, and it worked. The question is, all those signs that you saw, did you document them? Did you take some pictures during that documentation? The line of treatment that you chose and it worked for you, did you document them? If you documented all of those things during your treatment option, that is something that you are supposed to tell the world. But many people just do those documentation. Some of them have access to all of those information, but that is all. They don't do anything about it more than that. And that's the reason why we're looking for sources of data. So number one is routine collection or regular sources. You can hear that routine. We call it routine, but we are expected to make use of those routine to generate data. there are some people that have clinics, and their clinics register vitals of animals entering into their clinic every blessed day, and they have not done anything about that data. By now, we should be able to be talking about the fact that when we talk about fever in a particular breed of dog, this is the temperature range that we should be looking at, because some people have documented it over a period, some of them over years. They have documented that if it passes this temperature, then it is an indication, but they only have that knowledge to themselves. They have not documented and published such results. And these are the reasons why we don't have data around animal health. And a person like me, I have done that like 2 times. There was a time I was working in an organization. I was seated on so many data, and there was even one that was of interest to me because there was a problem that we couldn't solve. We had to invite some white guys and send the samples outside the country. I eventually converted that to a publication, and I eventually published. That is what we are talking about. And the publication did not even mention the farm where I was talking about, did not mention where it took place, because that is privacy, which is permitted in publication. Privacy of or what we call what else do they call it now? That you have to keep it confidentiality. Yes, confidentiality of the client or the person involved. So they couldn't trace it to where I worked, because it's allowed that when you are doing your publication, you can keep everything confidential. And eventually it was published. So what I'm trying to say, and I've done that like twice, you just take a case up, go through it, ensure that you document everything, take pictures, document everything all the way. And then you call it case reports. Nobody will ask you not to publish case reports. And by and large, you are having 4, 5 publications out there in your name. And that is routine or regular sort. Then we have adult collection. This is actually for survey or experiment, that you are going to pay some people to go out there, help you gather the information on the field. Some students also can be involved at times. So this is usually when we are talking about large volume of data required. Then we have the non-traditional sources. The 2 above are traditional sources, but there are non-traditional sources that people are currently using. And I'm going to tell you that I actually got that knowledge from a group, an international group that I joined. All they will be looking for is what people have posted on their social media, what people have posted on their anything that they could have access to, blogs, social media platform and all. They gather that information. When they get that information, they will now verify it. They will try to do some kind of group discussion, interview and all, to verify the information and eventually convert the information to data and generate it. So this is another means in which some people post something on WhatsApp, they post something. Those can also serve as an access of information, source of information, data that can be verified. Yeah, we are supposed to actually do this exercise. But I don't know if we are here. It's just like we are matching. So you can look at the problem and then you can tell which field should that problem be used. So take, for example, is new grain seed or fertilizer more productive? Out of all of this field, where do you think it should be used? If you have an answer, please, you can unmute and let us know.
Agriculture.
Agriculture, thank you very much. So very good, agriculture. So let me go to the last one. What is the right amount of dosage of drug to treatment? Where should that be used? Out of all these fields.
Medicine.
Medicine therapy, thank you very much. So it's just to be sure that we are actually following this. All right, so let's proceed. We are now going gradually into how things are done. Now, we have to talk about population and sample. So population is a collection of all individual subjects or items under consideration in a statistical study. Population is, say for example, are you looking at population of animals? Are you looking at population of goats? Are you looking at population of dogs? Are you looking at population of human beings? Are you looking at population? That is population. Now, you can't sample everything. And that is the reason why we have, from population, we have the sample. So sample is now the part of population from which information is collected. That is sample. And sample and population, they are two different things. You need to take sample out of population. And this is what is actually used to demonstrate that. Look at this flow, for example. Look at these dots. You can see. Let's assume that our interest is that we want to work on pregnant, let me say, cow, and this red dot with cycle represents male dogs, and this one without cycle. This one without cycle represents this one without cycle represents female. Sorry. This one with cycle represents bulls. Our interest is pregnant cow, and then this red represents, let's say, cows. Why this red with circle represents bull. Now, the first thing is that we are not going to make, our interest is not, when you talk about pregnancy, you can't be talking about bulls. So all of this population with red and blue cycle, they are not our interest. So we are not going to put them in the sample in the first place. Now, let's move forward. The total female, pregnant or not pregnant, can also not be put in that sample. Even the total pregnant cannot be put in that sample. So we have to choose representative pregnant cows from the whole population that can be representative in order for us to choose for our sample. So that's the reason why you can see so many clusters and but by the time you look at these, you see that they are now very few, because these are our samples, which is just collected to represent the population. So sample is just like a representative of the population. And there are different sampling methods that we have. A sampling method means the way observations are being selected from a population in order to have our sample survey. So that is like a demonstrating how we collect, what's it called? How we collect samples from the population. Okay, so we go ahead with the, so the question is, we have some quiz which we are supposed to answer within, I don't know. I don't know. You are supposed to actually type this on the chat and send to us. So I don't know if you can quickly attend to them. It's just for us to know if you follow the class for today. So in your words, how can you define biostatistics? So you can type and then send it in, just to be able to ensure that everybody is following. In your word, how can you define biostatistics? Then, what is the importance of biostatistics to veterinary medicine? Oh, sorry, I didn't mention this. Okay, so you can also type that and send in. So I'm going to leave the question open for about, let me say, other 10 minutes, but I'm thinking that before you start answering the question, it's not impossible that you may also have some questions by yourself. So maybe we should first of all deal with the questions that you have, and then you can type in this question. So you can unmute if you have any question, so that you can ask your question. So if there are no questions, you can start attending to the questions, and then you can type them in.